Hello, my friends. My name is Samuel Savy, and this week on the show, CF Montreal break records and most likely Toronto playoff hopes with their stunning win at BMO Field. Ismail Koné had one foot in the plane to England again, and the women national team triumphed down under despite missing key players. All of that and a lot more in episode 98 of The Ball is Round. No on vacation, but I'm joined as usual by my friend Eve Powell. How are you doing tonight?
I'm back!
You're back, yes.
Yes, hi. Oh my goodness, you've traded one co-host for another.
Yeah, that's what's up. It's vacation time, but we're still
Exactly.
managing to make these episodes. So I'm pretty happy that
I
we're able to
know.
do it.
No, I'm pumped and I'm glad to be back, I gotta say, especially after a week like this past week we've had in soccer.
Wow,
Um,
it was amazing, and yesterday was the culminating point of it, and we're super happy to be here and to give you that episode. Hi, Robbie says Happy Labor Day. Yeah, we're laboring a bit, but it won't be too bad today because we have so positive things to talk about. So I guess we'll jump right in, guys.
For sure. And just before we do, say hi to Justin from Duke by the River.
Oh
I was
yeah,
just
hi,
thinking
Justin.
about I think about Philadelphia Union a lot because for obvious reasons. And yeah, really happy for them. And thank you, Justin. I'm glad that you enjoyed it, even if your least favorite player was maybe involved in some of the goals that Toronto scored.
But you know what?
Honor.
Something that flew a bit under the radar this week was that Jim Curtin, Philly's coach, had very nice words for Wilfred Nancy, praising him and basically saying that he should be coach of the year this year. So that's a great honor for Wilfred.
Yeah, definitely. And hey, Jean Francois as well.
Hi, GF. Guys, let's jump right in. So, the Canadian Classique or the 401 Derby, whatever you like to call it, Montreal did the 50-minute flight to Toronto to face its archenemy at BMO Field. Toronto had boosted their squad during the summer transfer window, but still, since the start of July, the Reds had a record of 4 wins, 4 draws, and 4 defeats. Their hopes of making the playoffs rested heavily on winning against us. On our hand, New York Red Bull had broken our 8-game undefeated streak and planted a seed of doubt in the heads of many fans, as we found out in our prediction game. So, for this crucial encounter, Wilfred Nancy went with Pantemis in goal, from right to left in defense, Johnston, Waterman, Camacho, Miller, Chouanière. In midfield, Piet Wanyama and Mihalovic, and up front, Kai Kamara and Romel Kyoto. Ismail Koné was back in the 20 after purging his suspension on Wednesday, while Gabriele Corbo was dropped to the bench after filling in the absence of Rudy Camacho. Joaquin Torres, who started the midweek game at Stade Saputo, was on the bench, while Rida Zouir, who had been dressed for the last three, was left out. Eve, Nasi seemed to mean business yesterday. Do you feel that he lined up what was probably our playoff 11, at the exception maybe of the left wing back position?
Yeah, I'd say so. I would definitely say so. You know, I think maybe had a little bit of debate about like who was the starting striker, the best starting striker or pairing, depending on if it's striker or not, next to Romel Kyoto. And if yesterday didn't prove that it is undoubtedly, undisputedly Kai Kamara, then I don't know what someone can do to prove it to you. So for me, like you said, obviously left wing back being the exception, and then maybe in goal as well, because I don't think Wilfred Nancy is set on who his goalkeeper would be going in.
That's a good point, and Breza did very well in Chicago. He was in the team of the week, if I'm not mistaken. But I think it's gonna be open until the very end, and probably in this situation as Montreal is right now, it's the better option, because if you're uncertain, you keep an open battle between the two, and it's kind of elevate the game of both of them, because honestly, there's not. Yeah, Pantemis I think is currently the number one, but there's none of them that really stamped his place as the first goalie of this team yet. So it's gonna be interesting to see until the end.
Mm-hmm.
So right into the game, guys. It didn't start as planned though, because in the second minute of play, Piet collided with
God.
Akinola in the box, and though Alan Chapman waved off the penalty, claims. He was called back to the VAR monitor and changed his
Yeah.
decision. What were your thoughts on that, Eve? On that whole sequence?
I thought it was a penalty
Okay.
because of the contact, even though
Mhm.
Ayo Akinola was like really losing control of the ball at the time of the contact. It kind of like looked to me almost like Sampiet didn't know that Akinola was there. He was like kind of running out of the box, you know what I mean? And I don't understand how you can miss him because he is not he's not like a Joaquin Torres, you know,
Yeah.
maybe high in your blind spot. He's a solidly built guy, Ayo
Yeah, yeah.
Akinola. But for me, yeah, it was, you know, a collision. Didn't really look like it was an attempt at a tackle. It literally just looked like Sampiet ran into him. Like,
Yeah. Honestly,
I,
my first view of it was penalty. You know, when it happened, I said, "Oh,
yeah.
that's going to be a penalty." But now that Alan Chapman decided it wasn't, what I was not sure is that, you know, you're going back to the VAR monitor. What new
Mm-hmm.
information are you gonna get? You know, he was so well placed, Chapman. He was five
No,
meters away.
I agree with you. He was super well placed. I just think it was like a subjective thing, maybe.
Exactly. So what did he see on the VAR monitor that made him change his mind? He had a perfect view of the incident when it happened. That was a
Well, you
bit.
know, it has been a pretty controversial weekend for VAR.
Oh yes.
I know you also follow English football
Hmm.
along with me, Sam. And, you know, they had a really tough week over there with VAR. And so I don't know if even that could have possibly influenced
Maybe.
any referees in MLS on the weekend because obviously it sounds like their refereeing bodies basically apologized to a bunch of coaches already, which is terrible and
Yeah.
shocking. But nonetheless, it does go to show that obviously we still have strides to make. Because, yeah, no, I agree with you. It didn't necessarily seem like it was quote unquote an error, other than the fact that we all seem to agree it was a penalty on the first call. It seemed like he saw the contact and just didn't think it was a penalty.
Exactly. And what I'm afraid of VAR is becoming is, you know, referees not taking these big decisions and giving them the opportunity to go to the monitor and look at it again. And, you know, Dave Gantar, when he came on the podcast, the ex-FIFA referee, you know, he kind of explained it that way too, is that, you know, if you're not 100% sure, well, at least you have VAR on the back of your mind is to say, you know what, if, you know, I can go back there and recheck my decision. So, you know, I think that's what VAR is becoming slowly. That's not what it was for at the start, but I think it hurts me to say, but I think it was the right decision in the end, and it went against us. So, you know,
Yeah, you know, he got there in his own way.
yeah,
um,
yeah,
you
exactly.
know, but at the end of the day, if we all agree that the right decision was penalty, it was that his subjective interpretation was wrong. So
Yeah, kind of. So anyhow, Federico Bernardeschi, sorry, slotted
yeah.
the ball to the right of James Van Temis, and Toronto had the lead 1-0 very early in the game. And in the 7th minute, it went from bad to worse for Montreal. Bernardeschi drove a ball towards the penalty area, and Sampiet's deflection set the ball up on a tee for Lorenzo
Yeah.
Insigne, who volleyed home a good goal, very good goal by
Yeah.
Insigne. Eve, a lot of people were blaming Sampiet for Montreal's poor start to the game. Did you agree with their sentiments?
So obviously the penalty, like to me, it just looked like the weirdest human error I've seen in a long time. And then I thought the deflection really was unlucky. You know, deflections, we've seen them go all kinds of crazy directions. Physics is a funky science. So for me, honestly, yes, they were obviously two, and then as well involved in the third goal much later on. It was kind of just like he was really, 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 really in the wrong place at the wrong time. I wouldn't necessarily. Yeah, Justin. Oh yeah, I was like, oh no.
He's gonna say it.
Yeah. But outside of like the deflection, which, like I said, to me is it's just unlucky. The penalty, I'm still so confused as to like how he ran into Ayo Akinola. And then we'll touch on the third goal later on. I thought other than that, which were obviously game-changing moments, I thought he did play a good match in the midfield.
Yeah, me too. And I mean, I had the same feeling as you. You know, I can not let it happen. You know, it's gonna happen sometimes. And Piet plays that physical game, so you know, it kind of comes with the territory. But you know, the second goal, Piet is in his position, and he needs to try to make contact with the ball because Bernadeschi delivers a good ball in the
Yeah.
penalty area and Akinola is there and heads home, people would say, well, but why didn't Piet
Why
try to
didn't close him
deflect it?
down? Yeah.
Yeah. And usually when midfielders get their head on these driven balls, what it's gonna give center backs is a second to adjust because the ball will pop up in the air.
Exactly.
You can,
Exactly. The
yeah,
likelihood of it falling directly to the foot of,
yeah,
a world
exactly.
class player is it's so infinitesimal. So no, for me, it was just incredibly unlucky. I could maybe fault him a little bit and in tandem with Rudy Camacho on the third goal.
Yeah, we'll get to there later
And we
because I
will
have
get
my
there,
thoughts on
yeah.
that too. But I think it was very harsh. I was scrolling Twitter and Facebook when it was 2-0 Toronto, and obviously people were looking for someone to point the finger at, and it went to Piet, and I think it was a bit harsh, to be really
Yeah, but I
honest.
mean, I can see why if you had to look for a player that you would choose, the one who was there.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And Montreal looked stunned in the minutes following the second goal. Passes were off. There was a complete lack of structure in the play. But one thing that was still there was the energy and the intensity. And in the 18th minute, Kai Kamara combined with Kamal Miller. And when the Sierra Leone's shot was blocked, Miller followed in on the rebound and smashed the ball home. It was a beautiful goal by Kamal Miller. And I have a question regarding that. Eve, with all the changes in the roster that happened in the last 2 years, one factor that is not called either talent or potential that seems to have been a deciding factor for Olivier Renard is the mentality of the player, the grind they have in them. How much has that factor contributed to the team's success this year?
Like, I wonder how much of that is sort of in the nature of the players themselves and how much of it is coached. And I wore my La Grunta hoodie today, like, because I felt that they demonstrated that so intensely during the match. So that is the hoodie that I am wearing today, is my La Grunta hoodie.
Very nice.
Yeah. But nonetheless, I wonder how much of it comes from the coaching and how much it comes from the human side of things and the personality of the players, because admit it, especially these players who you acquire through trades where you might not even be conversing with them prior to picking them up in MLS, right? If you've not had the chance to actually get to know the player, how do you determine their mentality, aside from maybe watching them play, or if you are having conversations with other technical directors or sporting directors or whatever they're called in the various teams?
Yeah, that's a very interesting point, but it seems like Olivier Renard has picked almost perfectly in that
Seriously.
department. And so it is, there are players that come in here and they have that open mind and they say they're gonna buy into the project, and that's kind of what it is. Of course, there's a project on the field, how we want to play our football, how Wilfred Nancy imagine his soccer to be played, but there's also a project of which mentality will bring to this team. And I don't know if you remember, Eve, I'll bring you far back. Remy Garde's era, players, you had the feeling that you as a fan, you were more invested in the team than a lot
Yeah.
of players on the pitch. Then when Thierry Henry arrived, how many red cards did we have this year? You know, Tackles were flying left and right, Binks, Kyoto, Maciel, a lot of red cards. But you had the feeling that there was a change in mentality. Players were much more committed, than it was. And
They
I
were
have the feeling,
overcommitted.
yeah, maybe, but you know what? It's easier
Yeah,
to
but
coach
no. So
a committed team than a bunch of
completely
players that don't want to. So,
completely agree with you.
so I saw that change probably when Thierry Henry arrived, and Wilfred Nancy kind of pushed in that direction too, and it's
Yeah.
really good to see. So the Grinta showed again in the 21st minute when Victor Wanyama found Mihailovic all alone in the center of the pitch, and when nobody from Toronto closed him down, he fired a good shot that was partially blocked by Alex Bono and ended up in the back of the net. Another good goal. Bono could have done a bit better, I think, but a
Firmer
lot of
wrists, maybe.
but a lot was made of Georgie looking off since coming back from injury. Many things happened in his life, of course, as we know. Do you have the feeling that he was back to his old self last night?
Yeah, and I mean, I think that we have been seeing it in the matches leading, not necessarily the match on Wednesday, that we're just not going to talk about. But otherwise, like, I think we had been seeing it in matches recently. Like in Houston, he looked good. In trying to remember the other matches in between.
In Chicago, he did look
in
good.
Chicago, he looked pretty
Yeah.
good as well. Yeah, and really the other matches in between as well. It was just a matter of statistically speaking, like it didn't really represent on the score sheet. But he was getting into those spaces. He was unleashing passes that maybe just didn't wind up in a goal or what have you, or his shots were getting saved. Like in Chicago, for example, a load of it. He shot several times on that, and Gaga Slina is going to Chelsea for a reason. So anyway, it was. I think it was. He stepped up in a big match, and I think that's also something that Georgi Mihailovic has been criticized for, maybe disappearing sometimes in those moments, right?
Yeah, I heard it a lot. When it's a big game, you don't see him that much, but yesterday it was all over the place, and in a good way. And Justin says, poor goalkeeping from Bono, that was weak. Oh, yeah.
I just want to really quickly, as well, just say hi to NHLP 5000.
Hi, man. And my mom, of course.
And hi, and thank you, Denise. I'm glad to be back. Sorry about that. I didn't want to miss anyone.
Victor Wanyama missed a glorious opportunity in the 29th minute, but fast forward to the 43rd when Joel Waterman sent a searching ball forward towards Kai Kamara. Chris Mavinga got there before the Montreal man, but made a complete mess of it, and Kamara
I think, though, he injured himself in that series of play because he wound up not coming back, right?
Yeah,
and they actually had stripped Lucas McNaughton because they thought he wouldn't be able to finish the half. So I think he did injure himself just to kind of like throw him some kind of bone, because otherwise it looks real bad. You get stripped by a guy who turned 38 like last week.
Oh yeah, no, but Mavinga is not what he used to be. But either way, Kamara went 1-on-1 with Bono and slipped the ball through his legs to give Montreal the lead for the first time in this game. So if there's two things here, first of all, with the return of Camacho and Waterman slotting back into his right center back position, do you have the feeling that offensively it gives us more options? And what I mean is that Waterman is very adept at sending these searching balls in open spaces, while Corbo seems to prefer a bit more of a direct lofted ball to a stationary player. So how much is that important in that role that Montreal are trying to give the Waterman?
Yeah, I think it is important, especially as Montreal has evolved to use the flanks a little bit more in their play sort of throughout the course of the season. So with a player, whether it's Kai Kamara or even if it's going to be Alistair Johnston making perhaps a late run up the pitch, a searching ball coming out wide, I think is more interesting because there are likely going to be more, or even Georgi Mihailovic perhaps drifting, to one side or the other. So I would agree that it is better to have those searching balls not coming from, just dead center, and leaning more toward one side or the other. And just to kind of add to that, on the restart, it was Rudy Camacho's ball that found Georgi Mihailovic, which was one of those direct passes, from the quick restart. And that was also, I think, a benefit of having Rudy Camacho placed centrally.
Yeah, that's a good point. And so the second point here is for me is the most important one. Kai Kamara, what more can we say of this man? He's been so important for Montreal.
Don't know. Seriously,
I don't know what to say more, for real.
I think he may have supplanted, I guess, Joel Waterman as Montreal's bargain signing of the year, because obviously Joel Waterman also, I think, is definitely worth more than what he's getting paid, as we've talked about before, and I think the same can be said for Kai Kamara. As well, he seems to have a really good influence on the locker room and stuff. We've talked about this 100 times, I think, already. But, that's that veteran savvy that's so important, and I think was lacking last year when Montreal was in these do-or-die kind of scenarios. And, of course, they were down, lower in the standings at the time. But this was still kind of like a do-or-die match because Montreal does want to host a playoff game. So it is important to get as many of these results as we can to make sure that we lock down that top 4 position. No. But... so I think Kai Kamara is a player who's beyond important to Montreal, even though the squad did mature a little bit last year to this year.
And we have a graphic here, a Voronoi graphic.
Yes, just give me 2 seconds to bring it up because, my goodness, it is the coolest thing I've ever seen.
It's really interesting. So there you go, and we'll just give credit where credit is due.
Yes, we did not make this.
Yeah, no, we did not make this.
So
I just
it's
find it
done
a bit
by
late.
yes, it's done by a gentleman named Ron Jobbins, and
Yeah,
at
thank you.
at Jobbins Jobbins data on Twitter.
And you can see, so the 2 points that we brought here on that goal. So the searching balls. First of all, look at the space that Romel Kyoto occupied in this game.
Number
So
30.
number 30, the blue space in the bottom of your screen. It's incredible the space that he uses, because look at all the directions that he can take with the ball when he has it. So if you're Kamal Miller, if you're Rudy Camacho, if you're Sam Piet, or even Mathieu Chouanière that you see in the vicinity of Kyoto, he occupies almost half the pitch in a space that he can attack. And you see Kyoto, he's a right-footed player, but he's excellent with his left foot, and he's excellent like driving diagonally once he has the ball towards the goal. So these searching balls that we were talking about are so crucial to Montreal's way of playing, and you can see why in this graphic. Second thing that I wanted to talk about is look at Kai Kamara. He has two players literally on him almost all game, and it's Mavinga and O'Neill, both center backs. So when we say that Kamara is important on a multitude of aspects, you cannot take out the aspect of how many players he attracts on him and opens up spaces for others. Because look at close to Camera, you have Mihailovic, who has space to run in these almost right behind him, and you have obviously Romel Kyoto, who has a lot more space because O'Neill, the center back, is almost playing on Mavinga. So very interesting graphic. I was happy to see it, and credit to the person who made it. It's very interesting.
Yeah, and we'll make sure to tag their account when we tweet out the episode.
Of course. So there you go. It was 3-2 Montreal, and this is how we went into the dressing room. So players of both, both sets of players must have been very happy to take a break, as it was a frantic first half.
Yeah.
But Coach Eve, what would have been your speech being to your man at halftime?
I don't even know, though, if I would have made a speech, to be honest with you, because it really seemed like... And, I was thinking about it as well, getting ready for today. It's not like there was an injury stoppage or, a hydration break or anything like that where Wilfred Nancy really got the chance to, gather his players during that half and talk to them, right? That was, the adjustments that were made to get Montreal back into the match were done on the fly, basically, in the run of play. You managed to grab whomever's attention.
Yeah.
So I don't even know, though, if I would say anything to them, because it seemed to me that all of the players were completely in the right zone that they needed to be in. Only thing maybe I would have said is it did seem like Georgi Mihailovic, as the first half kind of wound to an end, I think he was getting a little fed up with Krishkito and some of his tackles he was putting in.
Yeah.
And, I think he did get his deserved yellow card. Maybe it would have just warned him to kind of not take a red, please. Because I think, you know the tackle I'm referring to, right? Where he came in 20 seconds late, and, that's what happens when you're, a player who gets tackled a lot all game. You can, of course, get frustrated with that. But anyway, all that being said, I honestly don't think I would have said a thing, because to me, at least on the pitch, it looked like everyone was in the right mental zone that they needed to be in.
I agree, even. And, there maybe one thing, I wouldn't have said anything on the attitude or the mindset of the team.
No.
Sometimes coaches, you need to refocus, or something. That team was locked in. They were in their zone. It was very nice to see. There was one thing I was maybe worried a bit at halftime, is that Mathieu Chouanière picked up the yellow card right before the break.
Yeah.
And now I had the feeling that Toronto would try to attack him a lot on his wing. Because
or Richie Laryea would maybe try to do Richie Laryea things.
Yes, exactly. And Toronto, Chouanière is not a defender. He's gonna play that role. He's gonna go deep to defend, and that's what they ask him. But he's not like a Torkelson who really has the defender mentality, and the base of the defender.
Yeah, that's a good point.
So I would have maybe asked, tell Kamal Miller, tell Victor Wanyama to stay wary that Chouanière might be very exploited in the second half and draw up a bit close to him because
Wound up
stuff.
not being much of a concern though.
No, but I was thinking of it at that
No,
time.
but
I said,
I totally agree with where you're
but
coming
it
from.
wasn't a problem at all. You're
But
right.
yeah, like now I'm like, why didn't Bob Bradley do something?
Well, that's a question we could ask our Toronto people, but I don't know, man.
We don't have many friends from Toronto.
No. So no changes for Montreal, and off went the second half. In the 51st minute, Kyoto headed the ball straight to Bono, but he redeemed himself 3 minutes later when he snatched onto a ball from Mihailovic and crossed the ball towards Kai Kamara, who cushioned the header perfectly towards Alistair Johnston, who followed the movement and put the ball past Bono to make it 4-2 Montreal. One thing that struck me yesterday was how unselfish Romel Kyoto was.
Yeah.
He's a player literally chasing Golden Boot recognition, but he seems solely focused on helping his team win, providing for his teammates, and he even dropped very deep to help Mathieu Chouanière in the second half deal with Bernadeschi. I mean, it's incredible that mentality, right?
No, yeah, to me, he's super bought into Montreal, to, playing for Montreal. I mean, I think, and it's weird because I know that he was really into having Thierry Henry as a coach. Like I know that because I learned to use Google Translate on Instagram, basically. I know that he was somebody who like publicly said that he was really, really disappointed when Thierry Henry left. And so I was like a little bit concerned going into, say, the 2021 season. And then, he wound up getting injured a lot. So it was kind of a moot point. But I mean, to me, he just seems completely locked in, completely invested. And definitely very unselfish play. And I don't know if we're going to talk about it, but Kai Kamara, the same thing last night. Yeah.
I just don't know what to say anymore in Kai Kamara that we didn't say yet. So, I mean, it's...
Yeah, but I remember I was watching the both of them back there and I was like, oh my God. I was like, Montreal is going to hang on to this because I said, look at how hard, say the two quote-unquote strikers are working.
Yeah. And it was a clash with how Toronto was approaching the game. You would see, I remember a sequence where Insigne was caught between a passing triangle of Montreal. So he pressed once, he pressed twice, and the second time.
But he was alone.
Yeah, he just let it go. He said, "I'm done with that." So
he was the only one trying to press them. Really?
Yeah, but that shows no structure. If you're pressing alone, there's something wrong, and that's
no, exactly. So I wouldn't bother either.
Well, but that's where you see the complete difference in mentality, and it was good. It was. It was pretty evident watching the TV that there was a big difference. Yeah,
I mean, there were a lot of, I think, neutral spectators who kind of tuned in if they were able to see it. And that seemed to be for folks who didn't have, say, a foot in either camp and didn't have that emotional investment, that kind of seemed to be these are two very different teams in two very different places on the pitch, despite what the scoreline says.
Yeah. And the first move by Wilfried Nancy was in the 66th minute when he replaced Georgi Mihailovic with Ismail Koné. Did you like that move, and did you feel it panned out positively?
Yeah, I did. I thought Ismail Koné worked his socks off. I thought he ran really hard. I thought he was especially in those scenarios late in the game when Montreal had gained a little bit of possession in the Toronto half. He was typically around that, and I thought he was relatively smart in his playing. I'm still haunted by that Atlanta loss from last season that we saw with Sanusi and Ahmed Hamdi, and he didn't go into any silly unnecessary turnovers to add undue pressure on the team. And especially, he had a really, I can only imagine, to me, it would have been a difficult week, a really up and down week. And so I think it was a big chance from Wilfried Nancy to put him out there. But obviously, I'm sure they must have had conversations before the game. And so I'm sure he knew that Koné's head was in the right place. And Koné himself, I'm sure, was, doing all the right things to make sure that he didn't get himself let down. But overall, and as well, I think it was probably best to take Georgie off because he had been getting the crap tackled out of him most of the game, and as well, he was on that yellow card.
And Ismail Koné, for me, it's always been a bit of a mystery, and more so defensively, because he showed that he has a lot of offensive potency, but defensively he's not shown much. And I really liked his game because he was really committed in the defensive aspect of the game. I remember at the start of the game he started pressing even in when he came in, he started pressing even in front of Kyoto and Camara. And I think it was Victor Wanyama, maybe 2-3 minutes later, kind of talked to him, and there was a little of an exchange. I think Piet wasn't far, and you saw Koné kind of settle down into the game, and that helps so much to have these big brothers with him on the pitch and really guide him. So I really liked, and to be honest, I've never really been that bought into the big hype around Koné, but I really liked his game. I think he was good, and the building block for the future, because sometimes you need to fall, to get back up a bit stronger, and that's what happened. When he got sent off in the first half against Chicago, then his two avoided.
That was a harsh sending off, but yeah.
The transfers that didn't work out. He for sure it wasn't easy for him, but he he picked himself up off the floor well and did very well.
Credit due to him. I don't know if I could have had that mentality at 20 years old.
For real. And we forget how young he is sometimes.
Yeah,
it's true. So Kyoto picked up the yellow card in the 74th minute. Then Nancy proceeded to make a double change. Off came the Honduran and Mathieu Chouanière, who was also on a yellow card, and on came Mason Toye and Robert Tarkelson. The end of the game was much cagier than the start, and when Matko Miljevic, who was Nancy's final player subbed in, gave the ball away, Insigne reduced the gap to 1 goal after Piet and Camacho got into a mix-up. Were you worried about the dreaded comeback, Eve?
I mean, it was so late in stoppage time. I thought maybe we would have seen like a Liverpool-Newcastle stoppage time scenario, in order for them to truly find their way back. But so for me, the fact that it was just so late in stoppage time, and just how Montreal had managed the other 45 plus 3 minutes of the half, I was relatively confident that they'd be starting obviously with possession from the restart after the goal, and that they'd be able to hang on to the ball until such a time.
Yeah, me too. And you saw Toronto wasn't even getting the ball quickly and trying to
oh my god, I remarked upon that. I was like, why aren't they running out of the net with the ball?
I thought they
were like even trying to, because I remember one of the Montreal players picked it up, right? And like nobody was. And like Toronto, they love shithousery. I was like, why is nobody like going and tugging on him to get the ball and like pushing and shoving and stuff? But no,
they look completely disinterested, and
it was weird.
Didn't really celebrate.
Well, no, you don't celebrate when you're losing. That's normal.
I mean, just look happy a bit. He didn't seem to care, and that for me is kind of said that it's probably game over, even though there was one goal deficit. So the game did finish 4-3 Montreal, and we swept the MLS season series against Toronto for the first time in our history. Now that we're talking about breaking records, Eve, listen to this. Last night we got our 16th win of the season. We picked up our 52nd point of the year and scored our 53rd goal, setting new standards for the club since our MLS entry. And we had a question from Mathieu on this.
Yes.
Mathieu asks us, which broken team record do you appreciate the most? I'll start with you, Eve.
I have to say points on the season, because obviously that is the one that's going to get Montreal to the playoffs. Well, I mean, for heaven's sake, unless our previous points record has been really dismal. So I would have to say points on the season for sure, because especially knowing that Montreal doesn't have big names in attack, or a particularly attractive at least on paper, right, roster that would maybe captivate your run-of-the-mill neutral. They've been able to put together performances and draw out points from difficult scenarios and come back from losing positions and so on and so forth. Other than that, I would have to say probably their record on the road is what impresses me most this season.
Yeah. For me, it has to be the 53 goals. And the reason why is we've had Marco Di Vaio, Didier Drogba, Nacho Piatti, and we've never had these, these standards at the club. So it's pretty impressive that Wilfried Nancy and the whole crew. We talk about Wilfried Nancy, but it's the whole team. Where it was able to work in that direction and get these goals, and that's awesome for me because that's. I mean, it's something that we wouldn't expect. That at the start of the year, never would have we said this.
Well,
team,
and so many defenders scored goals this year, like multiple goals.
Yeah.
Alistair Johnson's got 3, Kamal Miller's got 2, Joel Waterman's got 3, Rudy Camacho has 1 or 2, I forget. But you know what I mean? Like, Lassie's got a couple, if we're counting them as defenders, and Mathieu Chouanière, if you want to count him as a defender as well, he's got a couple. So, like, I'm just, like, so many players have scored this season, different players. And as well, Romel Kyoto, he's not even a DP.
No.
But he's scoring, on par with what Montreal's previous DPs have scored.
Yeah. No, it's incredible.
No, so that's a really good point as well. I don't dislike that record at all. And you're welcome, Mathieu.
Yeah, for sure, man. Anytime. And Hadi is usually our media member. Everything related to the press conferences goes by him, but he's on vacation, and of course we miss him. But I did pick up on 2 very interesting quotes from after the game, and I want to hear you on them individually, Eve. The first one is Georgi Mihailovic, who said, and I quote, "Money can buy ticket sales, but not heart."
Love it. Yeah. I love it. Oh my god, I wish you were sticking around for like the next edition of Montreal versus Toronto. And maybe, if all of the stars align and some black magic happens and whatnot, maybe it'll happen in the playoffs. But oh my gosh, seriously, because I don't disagree. That's certainly what it looked like on the pitch last night, and in the stands, which, as Holy Gale remarked, they were pretty silent by the end of it. Yeah,
deafening is a good word, because I've rarely seen BMO feel this silent, and it's just
they gotta stop bringing Montreal when the exhibition's in town, because like the last time we won there, do you remember the time we won there 1-0 with 10 men?
Of course, one of my favorite games ever.
Likewise, that was also when the exhibition was in town. So they've got to, like, if Toronto knows what's good for them, they've got to stop bringing Montreal to town in conjunction with the exhibition, because it doesn't work out too well.
No, not really. And Justin Friedberg says Toronto can use some of that DP money to buy the Italians some nice pasta to draw.
You can get some damn nice pasta in Montreal, just saying.
Yeah, but you really have some good. Miller, Kamal Miller said, "We felt pretty disrespected that going into this game, all of the questions from the media were asking how we were going to cope with TFC, when they should have been asking how TFC is going to cope with us."
Yeah.
Huh.
And that's like an excellent point. I too, like, and that's, I mean, I feel really bad saying it, but a part of me, I'm so sorry. Denise. Don't tell them about the good pasta. I'm sorry. I don't know if she meant don't tell them, like, not to go, like, not to have Montreal go to Toronto.
I think that's
okay.
Yeah,
okay. I'm sorry. I'll scratch that from the recording. Okay. And sorry, just because we're on the topic of food, and then I will get to Miller's comment, I promise.
So this year's
pasta
derby named the Pasta Poutine Derby. Well, the poutine had more than the pasta for sure.
Well, let me tell you, poutine is a solid meal.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. It's a solid meal all year round. I would eat poutine in the summer, but I would not eat pasta in the summer.
Well, I tried both before playing games, and I preferred the feeling of eating pasta rather than poutine before a game. So that's
okay. Well, I'm just talking about like the season.
Yeah.
Oh God. Okay. But anyway, no. Definitely team poutine as of today. For sure. Anyway, okay. So Miller's comment. Yeah. So Miller's comment. Regarding. I mean, I get it, because Toronto had been in good form recently, right? Like, I know that you gave their form the month of July overall, but like the last 8 matches coming into their match versus Montreal. They had only lost once, just like Montreal. So they had been in good form. Montreal had also been in good form, and obviously Montreal had been in, say, better form all season. So I do feel like definitely Montreal were not given as much respect going into this. Maybe if it had been Toronto going to Montreal in this case, Montreal as the home team would have been given a little more respect by the media and even by, neutral observers and fans and, on either side. But that's how it was. And we've definitely seen for years and years and years and years that Montreal does thrive on that underdog mentality. Yeah. That underdog that, you wrote us off. Well, take a look at what we've got going on.
Yeah.
And this is also a really good point that Justin brought up regarding the comments made by Vanni Sartini after Vancouver won the Canadian Championship, that TFC was given too much respect.
Well, that's just I mean, it's. I think it's some media members kind of buying into the hype that the league is trying to push around big European names coming to MLS. Yeah. But if you look at the top scorers of the league, there's none of them that was one of the players that MLS and media are pushing forward. So, I mean, slowly but surely, I think they'll realize that collectivity wins over these names. But I mean, it's normal that Miller felt that way. I would have felt the same way in that situation.
And I even feel like myself as a fan, like I was like, oh my god, like those Italians are scoring goals left, right, and center, and like as well. I'm just gonna say Toronto has been on the receiving end of a lot of penalty calls.
Every game.
As I don my tinfoil hat, excuse me. Since their arrival, I don't think that all of them were as blatant as yesterday's penalty, which even then took VAR. But nonetheless, that's a conversation for another platform. So I was like really worried, and it's tiresome. You go onto like the app for the league, for example, and your top story is going to be Gareth Bale,
of course,
or it's going to be Insigne scored the volley, and anyway.
Yeah, no, I feel you, and I mean,
I'm sorry, I'm gonna go on like one of those tangents, and I completely feel for Kamal Miller. So as a fan, it's hard to feel taken seriously.
No, but I'm happy. I'm happy to see, and you know what? I'm happy to see that the players, they don't over respect these guys. They're on the same pitch as them, and they, they're going at it. Because if you go back a few years, Rooney would come to Stade Saputo, Schweinsteiger, all these guys, and some Montreal players were saying in the media, oh, it's gonna be fun. I watched him play in England. It's gonna be fun to be on the same pitch as him. And of course it is, but now the mentality is so much focused on winning and performing that players in this team this year, they don't seem to care against who they're playing.
No,
in Europe and the World Cup.
Totally agree. Completely agree. And I can see our friend Justin as well. He's popped into the comments there. He's mentioned the same thing about the Philadelphia Union, who are doing even better than Montreal this year. And they're in the exact same boat, right? So it is really tiresome, especially because MLS is trying to brand itself as more of a league that isn't relying on people coming over from Europe, say, on the down slope of their career. Yet it continues to push them publicly.
Yeah.
So it's a really fine balance, and I think maybe the league is still working to strike it.
Yeah, it's gonna take some time. I think the fans will move on from that mentality before the league does, but that's like you said, that's for another day. So we went to sleep last night, second in the East, 8 points behind.
And we woke up second in the East.
Oh yes, 8 points behind Philadelphia, and now 5 in front of New York Red Bull, who are our closest followers. We're now 14 points in front of New England, who detain the last available playoff position in our conference. We got hit with a few questions before the show, and we'll answer all of them. We'll start with Wayne Wilkinson's question. Wayne asks us, what's your prediction as to what week Montreal will clinch a playoff spot?
So I believe mathematically they would, like, with, you know, a win and then some circumstances, be able to do it next week. But, you know, when you need a win and then you need other people to do certain results, and like I tried to do the math and it took me a really long time, and I didn't finish the math completely and I'm still not sure my math is correct. So my understanding is they could do it next match with a win and some other results. But because I say, like, I don't really want to rely on other results, I would say week after next.
So on the
Or like the match after next.
So after the Chicago game on the 13th.
Yes.
So that's exactly where I think we will clinch to.
Ah, excellent.
It's a home game, so it's gonna be a celebration at Stade Saputo, and
my God, though, it's gonna be a midweek celebration. I can't fully celebrate then.
It's okay. It's okay. We love these. I love midweek games, and I think, you know.
I know, I'm kidding. I love a midweek game as well. We haven't had enough of them this year.
No, really.
Really, you know. Yeah, we haven't had enough of them, but I know I'm joking. I will celebrate with like a nice mug of tea.
Good. Robbie always has some great questions.
I know.
He hit us up with
Give me 2 seconds here.
What is the one thing that worries you about the team going into the playoffs? I'll pick it up, Eve, because
Sure.
I have something that's on my mind for a while now, and it really worries me. You know, when you look at a lot of teams in the Eastern Conference, they have some very nice records at home and very poor records on the road, and I think people, these teams, the reason why is that they'll tend to maybe, you know, try to get a result at home and really play at home, whilst on the road they're trying to maybe play for a draw. We've always struggled against teams that play for draws, right? And that's worrying me a bit, because if a team comes at Stade Saputo, parks a bus, and does it with a lot of structure and a lot of discipline, I think we could be in danger, because we've struggled against these teams. The only team that, the only player we have, in my opinion, that can really break a bus, a park bus, is Mihailovic. Maybe Kyoto, if he's able to go down that
run
left
off a
flank.
shoulder, or yeah.
And if he's able to drift on the left flank, if he's playing centrally, because, for example, Torres is in the lineup, I think we're going to be even more in trouble. So I think really what's top of Wilfried Nassi's list before we get into the playoff is to really find a way to break a team that's going to play a very, very low defensive block, no offside trap, and just, make it difficult and trying to hit us on the counterattack.
Yeah, and just Mathias slid in. He informed us that a win against the Crew is enough to clinch. I'm not 100% sure if it's like win against the Crew and that's it. I think there might still be another result involved, but I'm not a mathematician. Do not quote me on that. I would definitely trust whatever math tools Vincent Détouche has at his disposal before my brain and my sad piece of paper. So, okay, let's say win against. Still,
well, if it is,
I'm gonna go ahead and say I'm gonna stick with my prediction.
Yeah, same here. Do you have an answer for
Robbie?
Yeah, is there something that worries you, Eve?
Just everybody staying healthy. Definitely Montreal has lost some players, here and there throughout the season. Currently we're missing Lassi Lapalainen, who has become an indisputable starter. God love him. Lost Georgi Mihailovic for a little bit in the season. We were missing Rudy Camacho for a few weeks, so on and so forth. And we did manage to come out relatively unscathed. One player who Montreal has not missed this season is Romel Kyoto. If he were to become injured, I would worry.
Oh, man.
Because, his production, and then as we saw last night as well, his just overall offensive contribution, unselfishly as well. If we were to miss a player like him, do you think Kai Kamara and Mason Toy and Sanusi Ibrahim and Bjorn Johnson maybe? Do you think they could fill that void? I'm not sure.
No, because Kyoto is almost has a unique profile for the whole league, let
Very.
alone our team. So yes, it's gonna be a big problem if Kyoto gets injured. So let's not say it too loud because let's not jinx it. But
Oh my god, I will like start a little altar in my bedroom with
yeah,
candles.
no, because Kyoto, healthy this year. We've seen prime Kyoto. I
It's
think he's never
amazing.
playing that well. So
Oh
so
my god. Like if I'm the Honduran national team coach, I'm so pumped.
NHL P5000 has an interesting one. He says our,
Yeah.
our, our home record this year worries him a bit. Well, it's not that bad, We've just had a bit more success on the road, but I don't think we can be too wary of how we play at home. I think the reason why we've maybe not had the results we're looking for at home is the exact reason why I'm a bit worried is that
Uh,
teams have come to Stade Saputo not looking for a result.
well,
Sometimes
that's the
just
thing, the
mentally.
parked bus
Yeah,
phenomenon that you're talking about. Yeah.
very worrying for me, but hopefully Wilfred Nasi will have some time to think about it and come up with something, because RSL wasn't good. KC 10 man wasn't good.
That's Austin who was 10 men, no?
Austin, yeah, my bad. KC came and parked the bus, and we
New York
struggled through.
City came, and I
New
mean,
York
they're
City,
in dismal form right now,
yeah.
but they parked the bus. Yeah, anyway. Yeah, we have a few examples.
Yeah, so that's what worries me. Robbie, let's move on to Maxime Degle's question.
Yes. Give me 2 seconds. There we go.
I really like that question. I told him on
Oh,
Twitter,
I like
Maxime, he
it too.
says, who's the greatest comeback of the year? Lassie, Pantemis after losing his net before camp, Piet after being left off a couple of games, or another?
Oh, can I
Please
go
go ahead.
first?
Yeah, for sure.
Lassie. I'm gonna say Lassie. I completely wrote him off, and like Justin in our comments there even said like it sounded like it pained me. No, honestly, like I'm gonna give Lassie all the credit that he is due, and the coaching staff as well, evidently, and probably the teammates who were around him who've like learned how he works to play with him, and then therefore cover him and to recognize when he needs to do that right foot cut. So for me, it's got to be Lassie. I mean, you and Hattie and I, Sam, at the start of this season, we did not have the time of day, did we?
Didn't have a second for him.
No, we were done. We were like, sign a left wing back, sign somebody. Like, what can Quizera do? What sort of random free agents are floating out in the world? We were like, this is a terrible experiment. Oh my god. And I mean, like, admittedly, the amount of money, he's a TAM player, so that still is like a little bit shocking to me.
Yeah.
But he has truly blossomed in that position this season. So I'm gonna say Lassie because I completely wrote him off with Montreal, and I was shocked when they permanently signed him.
Yeah, okay. Lassie's really close in my head, but my surprise this year is Sam Piet, because at the start of the year, we saw Piet barely ever play a minute. I think last pod we kind of 2 weeks before we kind of
Yeah.
brought out Piet's minutes at the start of the season. I think in 10 games he played the equivalent of 2 games and a half if you put
Yeah.
his minutes together. And a lot of people were questioning, does he have a future in Montreal? And is he gonna go to Qatar? And more and more. If you look at how Marc-Anthony Kaye played for Toronto yesterday, I think Piet not only is going to Qatar, but has a better chance of playing than Marc-Anthony Kaye, who's almost a steady place in the lineup. So, no, I mean, Sam Piet for me is the surprise and the feel good story of the year,
And
because
he did come back from an injury as
an
well, because I
injury
mean
at track.
that is a little bit why he missed time in the start of the season.
Yeah, but I don't think Wilfred Nasi really
Oh, wasn't
wanted
that
to
much?
see him there at the start,
Yeah.
because he gave a lot of, and I think the way Wilfred Nasi thinks is very offensive, so he gave a lot of chances to Ismail Koné, to Ahmed Hamdi too, and Piet comes in and plays fantastic, and really sets a new standard of how he's gonna play for the rest of his career,
Yeah.
because he's completely transformed his game.
Oh, completely. Yeah.
He was a pure number 6 that could barely make a forward pass, and
Yeah.
that's how we described him a few years ago. And now for me he's a complete midfielder. So
Yeah.
hats off to Piet. For me, he's my feel good comeback player of the year for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. And evidently Vanero is on my side with Lassie, my boy. And then Robbie is wondering if he was in the doghouse.
Piet, no, no. I just think
I
that Nasi saw the game differently than what he thought Piet could bring him.
And lo and behold. And then Justin Furtado as well. Just
Don't forget that Piet was injured at the beginning of the year while at camp with with the national team. But when he was fit, Justin, we checked it out and he missed a lot. He didn't play much either. He was more of a role player at the start of the season, even after his injury, and kind of just his minutes went up until he really became a starter. So yeah, interesting. Thanks everyone who sent questions in. We love
yeah.
answering questions, so just send them on, and it makes our day, guys.
No, they're always really good.
Yeah, people have
It's
awesome
like how
questions.
it's like how we get spoiled with our guests. We also get spoiled with our questions. Like I've never
That's a
thought
fact.
somebody asked us a dumb question.
Never.
Yeah,
Well, not
although
yet.
I
But
can see here on Twitter, like Simple Guy is not impressed with my pasta philosophy, and I'm sort of sorry. But it's really too hot to cook in my kitchen in the summer. It's usually like the thought of boiling water for me. I have an espresso to make my coffee in the summer because I cannot. So that is actually why I don't eat pasta in the summer, just so I can go back and defend myself to poor Simple Guy and Robbie, who were making fun of me on Twitter.
getting called out on your pasta, that's something.
I've got too many Italians who follow us.
Uh,
I kid. I do love you all very much. Okay.
so I think we're done with the Toronto game. Let's preview Columbus. Friday at Satsapuro, Columbus is coming to town. And the Crew's sitting sixth on 40 points. In their last five, they've won one and drawn four, so they're unbeaten in five. As usual, Yves, Montreal will win if, and Montreal will lose if.
So I think Montreal will win if they're able to harness that momentum, hopefully, that they've built up after that massive come from behind win over TFC on the road. Burying their rivals' playoff hopes. If they're able to harness that into something really intense, really, dynamic play, and really showing up and showing that character from minute one, ideally without any like early penalties, would be fantastic. So I would say harness that energy that brought them to that next level in the previous game. Montreal will lose if Columbus parked the bus and Wilfred Nancy hasn't figured out a plan B yet. I would say
That's interesting, if because my Montreal will lose if they're if we don't play with two forwards. I think we will lose because we've seen when Wilfred Nancy goes with one, he usually goes with Kyoto, and when Torres goes in to play that kind of out and out right winger role, it's been difficult. And Columbus have given up 31 goals this year. It's the second fewest number in the East, only behind Philadelphia. So they have to be very wary of this. So this is, for me, Montreal will lose if we play with only one forward, and when we don't go with Kyoto and Camara up front. I think Montreal will win if they're able to stop Columbus's attack, because yes, they've not been super
I'm so
potent,
sorry.
but
I'm just gonna slide a comment in because it matches perfectly.
well exactly, Justin, that's what I'm going to say. So Montreal will win if they contain the connection between Cucho and Zelarayan. Thank you. That's exactly what I was gonna say. So thanks, Justin.
But definitely other teams have managed to do that in recent times. It's been a pretty I would say maybe anemic, because it's not like they've been losing. They've just been drawing games. Columbus. So, other teams have certainly figured out how to stifle their attack.
That was the only real point of danger that I saw when I was looking at Columbus, because if you look at their midfield, I think we have a better midfield than them.
Likewise.
I don't think maybe in goal they maybe have a better goalie than us, but no, in general, I think if you can stop Zelarayan and Cucho, you're in very, very good territory to win. So yeah, that's my feeling. So Justin, great minds great minds connect, man.
Yeah, yeah. No, they're yeah. Anyway, yeah, no, they're just in weird form right now. Like I honestly, I'm not sure what we're gonna get from Columbus when they come. I could see them maybe trying to park the bus,
Yeah,
honestly, and
and
and hitting Montreal in the counter.
it's weird, eh? Because Columbus was a staple in this league for so long as a very good team. But look, when I look at them this year, I see a very beige team. Not
Yes,
very exciting. Not nothing to say really on them. And I hope I didn't insult our friends in Columbus or
yeah.
'cause,
I know. I'm
but
like, oh god,
yeah,
but
Darby.
no,
Yeah,
like, yeah, yeah. No, but the way they're playing to me is like, ugh, I don't know. It's I don't know. It doesn't excite me.
no, me
Um,
neither.
And yeah, anyway, and also just FYI, Robbie, nothing to be sorry for. I make up my pasta consumption in winter. I eat enough pasta for a small family in winter, so fear not. I catch up. I catch up. Alrighty,
Eve,
but yeah.
Ismail Koné.
Oh my God,
For
not again.
this, yeah, for the second time in this very transfer window, was strongly linked to English League Championship club. Interestingly, Norwich and now Sheffield United, they're the two top teams in the league right now. So both teams really, really aspiring for promotion to the Premier League. Interesting that they do look at Kone so highly because they have big projects for their club.
Yeah.
Strong reports were out that Koné would be leaving for somewhere between $5 to $7 million, but the deal eventually broke down. Paul Heckingbottom, Sheffield's manager, even admitted to the transfer offer being made, but that the deal fell through eventually. He also added that they would take a second bite at it in January. So no official word came out from the club other than Wilfred Nassi acknowledging the noise and saying that he was there to help the youngster reach his objective, and that we would see what the future holds for him. What are your thoughts on that whole situation?
So this is not the first time a club in England has been interested in Ismail Koné this season. And God, if I'm Ismail Koné, I'm like, I get excited because I'm gonna move to Europe, and you make the move to Europe, whether it's Premier League or whether it's Championship or League 1, Eredivisie, Bundesliga. You land on that continent and you're like, you've made it, right? Basically. And so it feels like you're so close yet so far. I would feel incredibly frustrated if I were him. But at the same time, hopefully he's able to interpret this, and hopefully he's surrounded by people who are helping him understand that like this is actually a glowing review of how he's played this season, and the potential that these clubs with big aspirations, like you said, like whether it's remaining in the Premier League or whether it's getting promoted to the Premier League, for example, for the clubs that are being cited, as being interested in him, the fact that they see him as being part of their project. If I'm him, like, you've got to be really excited by that.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Now you need to keep your feet on the ground and stay focused, because
Yeah.
the teams, they reached out to him, nothing has been signed. So I've seen a lot of people say it can only get better for Kone. I agree that most likely he's gonna trend in the right direction, but you just need to make sure that until the move does materialize, you keep focused, you keep your direction, and you keep the teams interested, because there are so many. It sucks a bit to say, but there are so many young, talented midfielders in the world,
Yeah.
right? So
Exactly.
for you to go over, the mass and really attract attention, you need to, one, be very talented, and two, be consistent. And I think that's what Kone has lacked a bit: consistency. If he can bring this into his game, well, I think he's
It's
gonna
gonna
be a
be more
very,
than
very good
just
team.
championship teams looking at him.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah,
So
and I'm sure there are more than just like I'm sure there are more than the teams who have made overtures. I'm sure there's more than just them looking for him, right?
oh, for sure, for sure. I've heard the Bundesliga. I've heard, probably. I mean, when some teams come out and really show attention,
Yeah, it's
and
rare that they're the
yeah,
only ones.
no, for
Yeah.
sure. So
And I mean, like, we've got Justin, listening tonight. I mean, he's seen lots of Union players come through that pipeline. And speaking of talented, talented midfield players, that's where they're born and bred, right?
Yeah.
But it's all about, if we want to take them as an example, because I think this is a good example, a good comparison, like a Brendan Aronson, who's incredibly talented and made the leap straight, to Red Bull Salzburg and then over to Leeds. It was like a kind of a hop and a skip journey, but he got that full season of MLS in him, and really was able to nail down that consistency, and he was a very legitimate threat for the club before he made his move. And when he made his move, it was a big money move for the club, and it was a team that was actually in the Champions League at the time.
It's crazy, eh?
So yeah, if I'm Ismail Koné, hopefully I'm able to keep my feet on the ground, stay focused, and use that attention as a motivator to up my game as much as I can.
Yeah, so now that transfers are over, I think it's gonna probably go to January. So it's definitely a situation that we'll be keeping a close eye on, and that kind of brings us to Simple Guy's question.
Yes, I did find that.
Okay, so Simple Guy asks us, can we find non-internationals to replace all who are leaving within 2 years? Mihailovic, Koné, Miller, Johnston.
That's a lot of names.
But I think he focuses on the fact that you want players that are not playing internationally that are gonna leave during international windows.
I thought he meant like international spots.
Oh, okay, yeah. Oh, okay, that changes it. Yeah, okay, so let's answer it like that. Yeah, you're right.
Because all of those players are American or Canadian, right? So
yeah, you're right.
That was my guess.
Right. Yeah, I think that's what he meant. No, I think you're right, Steve. So let's answer it.
On my Twitter just in case. But yeah.
Yeah.
So
it's gonna
okay.
be tough, right?
Honestly, like I feel like from we've seen, for example, Karifa Yao has had a pretty good time and I'm not going to try and make for swaps for all of these players because I don't want to go on here for 6 hours. But for example, just to pick Miller, I think Karifa Yao has had a good 2 seasons now in CPL. I think he could certainly push for first team action for sure. We've seen as well Sean Rea. Not sure if he's 100% all the way up to Mihailovic tier for sure, because that is obviously really high, a really high pedestal. But nonetheless, so we do know definitely that there are some academy players coming through who could potentially fill those spots. They might have a little bit of growing room, and so we might kind of go back to a 2021-ish level as they find their feet. Just to hypothetically pull it out. Or conversely, Montreal could splash some cash and, for example, in say the Mihailovic position, sign maybe a TAM or a DP attacking player, particularly if Victor Wanyama doesn't come back as well, right? Mm-hmm. Because I don't think Marko Miljevic is ready. I'm not convinced quite that I don't think necessarily that Sean Rea can immediately slip in and be Georgi Mihailovic 2.0 either. Just because it's a massive leap to make. And in that case, I mean, if it's gonna be a DP or a TAM signing, it probably would end up being an international player.
Yeah, I mean, but look at what the moves that Olivier Renard made, and well, we say Vasily Kremanzidis too because he's had a big part to play in this. Look at Kamal Miller, completely unheralded in Orlando, and comes in here in Montreal, and he's blossomed into one of the best defenders in the league, arguably. So Alistair Johnston, who was a good player in Nashville, but became an excellent player in Montreal. So it's just a question of scouting too. At some point, you have to keep your
But at some point, we're gonna max out the number of MLS players, already in the league. Or else people are going to be like, oh no, Montreal's looking at these players. We better charge them $2 million TAM instead. Because, we know Montreal's going to turn a profit.
Something that we didn't. So,
exactly. And, Mathieu, I think, kind of touches on that. Like he said, it's a great question from Simple Guy. Probably won't be cheap.
Yeah, no, it won't. So, it was an interesting strategy. coming from Renard and Cremanzidis. Now I think it's kind of open up eyes around the league. So when they are gonna come knocking for some Canadians, maybe they'll ask for a 6-month buffer to reevaluate maybe a bit more the player and see before they leave, because it's been impressive what they've done, and they've brought in some very, very talented young players with some good money to make once they leave. So yeah, good question, Simple Guy. Thanks for your question, man.
Yeah, no, and I think that one is probably one that keeps Olivier Renard up at night as well.
Yeah, for sure.
And Vasily Cremanzidis.
For sure. Hey, Yves, just before you transition out of the CF Montreal segment towards the the women national segment, I slipped in a little quiz for you because I know you like the quizzes. So that's how we'll transition.
Oh, you're my favorite co-host. Don't tell Hattie. I'm kidding. I love you both.
Hattie will know.
I know he's gonna listen. I love you both equally. Okay. Okay.
So it's just a one question quiz. So it's really easy, and every listener too. You guys just take a bite at it.
I won't even look at the comments.
Now that we're at episode 98, my question is really simple. Who is the only player in club history to wear number 98? Is it A, Jack McInerney, B, Mamadou Danso, C, Jérémy Gagnon-Laparé, or D, Diane Baldor? So I'll give you 15-20 seconds for everyone to think about it.
I'm gonna say I know Jack Mack wore 99, if I recall. So I don't think it's him. Diane Baldor's no. I'm pretty sure his number involved a 5. So I'm gonna say Mamadou Demso.
Good answer, and almost everyone had it too in the comments. So
yes, because Mathieu had it, and Marc Antoine.
GF, Good.
Yeah, Jack Mack is not next episode.
But there's more than one that wore 99 GF, so I won't ask that one.
Okay, that could be like a trick question. Or you could be like, which player did not wear number 99?
Yeah, good one. So it was Mamadou Fouti Danso, who didn't play much for Montreal, so he got his beautiful number 98, and I think played 5 or 6 games. A cameo appearance for Danso.
No, oh my god, episode 98, that's wild.
Yeah.
Weird. Oh my god, I might cry during your 100th, fair warning.
Yves, off to you for the women national team, because there was a double header of friendlies against Australia, and we won our first game courtesy of Adriana Leon in Brisbane, right?
We sure did. So Adriana Leon, she scored a screamer in the 12th minute. So Canada had gotten a free kick. It was headed out. Jordan Huitema wound up with the ball, did a really simple pass to Adriana Leon at the top of the box, and she unleashed a ball past Lydia Williams. Goal. Yeah, it was a really good goal. Really well struck. And obviously, she's just made the move to Manchester United, and she's still in preseason mode actually, because WSL hasn't fully kicked off yet. So good for her. Really good, and that was indeed the only goal of the match. Caitlin Sheridan wound up making 7 saves to keep a clean sheet. And I will just sort of, because especially Canada was missing so many players going into this window, and even after they had announced the roster, some more players wound up falling to injury. So I will just kind of go over quickly what the starting lineup was, just because it was such an unusual starting lineup for Canada. So Canada actually went out in a 4-2-3-1. So Caitlin Sheridan obviously started in net. Then we had Janine Becky at left back, Shalina Zadorsky, and Sura Yeka as the pairing in center back. Bianca Saint-Georges made her way back to the national team as well. She played at right back. They played a double pivot of Julia Grosso and Jessie Fleming in front of the defense. And then a 3 of Prince Sinclair and Adriana Leon, with Jordan Huitema up front as the out-and-out striker. Although I will say, it wasn't like sometimes Christine Sinclair was more up forward and sometimes Jordan Huitema was more up forward. So that was a little bit fluid between them because obviously like Sinclair, you know, there's a finite amount of running in her, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. But it was an interesting thing because neither Quinn nor neither Quinn nor Desiree Scott started. You know, in front of the defense, which is I think what we've been so used to seeing from Canada now for as long as I can think back, you know, at least over the past year for sure. So it was definitely very different and interesting. And like I won't go super deep into the tactics because I'm not you, Sam. But nonetheless, you know, despite missing so many players, particularly along the back line, you know, as even like Kadisha Buchanan wound up having to pull out due to injury partway through, and then as well like Vanessa Gilles had not been called up. You know, Ashley Lawrence was out for personal reasons, and there were more.
That's three very important players in that team.
Oh, that's three of your de facto starters on that back line. That's 3/4 of your back line. Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah. So anyway, no, it was wild, but nonetheless, they held up. And I mean, Sam Kerr, who plays, you know, with Jessie Fleming at Chelsea, she is a world-class striker. You know, she really did, you know, the defense did their best, but she still had a bevy of really good opportunities to shoot. And Australia will probably feel like they were hard, like they could have done a lot more in the match. Like they had really poor finishing. Canada also had some pretty poor finishes on their part. They might have been able to nab a second goal. Like I think Nichelle Prince had a really big miss in the second half. So I think both teams will feel like 1-0 wasn't super reflective of the actual match as a whole, but it was fairly end-to-end as matches go.
Nice.
Yeah. As well, Simi Awujo, who had, you know, impressed really well with the U20s. She scored... she came on as a sub to make her national team debut, which was awesome. And as well, Clarissa Larisi, who had been in really good form with Celtic in England and Scotland. She also made her international debut. She had a pretty big miss, just like all the other strikers. But as well, she came in and, you know, she certainly didn't look out of place either. You know, and I was really pleased to see Awujo, you know, after that disappointing U20 tournament where she was the bright spot, get a look in. And she came in kind of to play that 10 spot, that number 10 role with the team, which I thought was interesting. And I would definitely like to see a little bit more of her for sure. Just to note as well, Australia was also missing several players. They were missing 7 of the players who went to the Olympics with them. So Australia was really in a really similar situation to Canada as far as missing a lot of their usual starters.
Okay.
So it was like not a super representative match for either side. But I mean, that can be good for the coach, right? To get out a little bit of experimentation with lineups and maybe see players who don't get the same look as the others.
Oh, of course, that's what friendlies are for. But you know, there's a fine line between experimenting a lot and then losing a bit of the momentum that you create with performances. So it's cool to see these new players jump in. Now, you know, the fact that Gilles and Buchanan were missing, that's for sure that's gonna hurt because, you know, yes, you have Zadorsky, but who was playing with Zadorsky? I'm sorry.
Surayeka.
She
plays with Le Havre. She was you know, I'm not gonna lie, she's obviously lower on the depth charts than Zadorsky for sure. But I mean, you know, it wound up being a clean sheet. So she did hold her own. She did have a few mistakes for sure. But as well, she's kind of more of like a relative fringe player with the national team, right? She doesn't necessarily get called up every cycle. So whereas Shalina Zadorsky does get called up, you know, most cycles certainly. So you know, I wasn't super surprised that, you know, she would have had a harder time because she's just not with the national team quite as much. As well, I just wanted to touch on they had an attendance of about 25,000.
Beautiful, nice,
love it. It was really cool. It was actually really cool ambiance in the stadium.
Nice.
You know, to watch on TV.
And next game is this morning. Well, tomorrow morning in a few hours.
5:40 a.m. Eastern time.
Matthew set his alarm at 6 a.m. You're gonna miss the first 20 minutes, I think, Matthew. That's what it is, eh?
I gotta tell you, I got up at 4 o'clock for the Olympics. I don't know if I'd get up much earlier than 6 for a friendly.
Yeah.
I'll get up that early for a competitive match, but for a friendly that I know I can catch later, I might also do the same.
Well, it's this morning in Sydney. Do you think it's gonna be a good attendance too over there?
Honestly, I think so.
Yeah.
Especially given that Australia is preparing to host the World Cup, you can tell that they are gearing up really, and the country's obviously really invested in it. So yeah, I do expect it to be a pretty good attendance. Maybe not quite as good because it is on a weeknight for them, and well, we know what midweek matches are like, right?
Yeah.
So maybe not quite as good as in Brisbane where it was on a weekend, but I still think certainly decent attendance.
Nice. And do you think there will be changes from Red
Yeah.
Priestman? Yeah. What
Yeah.
do you expect?
I would expect to see maybe a more traditional lineup where there is like that defensive mid. To be honest, I would like to see still the tandem of Grosso and Fleming, but I'd like to see them higher up the pitch.
Okay.
So I would probably slot in a Quinn or a Desiree Scott, and give a little bit more license because well, we know Jessie Fleming is such a creative player, and it was actually really interesting to see her far back. Like the number of times she scanned and checked over her shoulder, I was just like, oh my gosh. I remember I was watching a video on like Premier League players doing that, and I was like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I felt like I was watching that video, but I was watching a match. Sorry, that was just, I digress. But at the same time, like to liberate her from those responsibilities to be like without as much checking over her shoulder and stuff for opposition players threatening the defense, I think would serve Canada a little bit better.
Very interesting. So maybe we could see, if they played that 4-2-3-1, they could just invert the triangle to play kind of a 4-1-3-3-2, I guess,
Yeah.
or something similar, and
Yeah.
see Fleming and Grosso a bit higher
Yeah.
with a
Or
number 6.
yeah, or even, do a 4-2-3-1, but make Jessie Fleming the 10, like we're used to seeing, and just allow say Julia Grosso the space to roam as like a true 8.
It's kind of interesting.
Yeah. But anyway, no, it was a really interesting match to watch. Honestly, it was really open. There were a lot of chances for both sides and just really poor finishing.
Yeah, so
And really
cool.
great saves.
Awesome. So hopefully we sweep the two games and Canada back on some very good winning ways, I guess.
Yeah, no, really excited. Really excited to see it.
Cool. So we'll keep we'll revisit these games. This game on the next episode.
For sure.
We'll keep it in mind. Cool. So Eve, off to social media.
Yes.
Let's go.
Yes. I remember Patty.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
He's in
So
trouble.
I know he's gonna listen, and I know.
Yeah.
So anyway, okay. So yes, I have 5 tweets for us. I really just wanted to pick all memes about last night's game, but I resisted. Okay, because there were some good memes that came out of last night's game. Yeah. So I'll start with the first one here. We have MLS Johnny, who said, "What a night in Toronto! It was funny seeing fans acting like they won the cup after 4 minutes." Only to realize they are little boys playing against men after 20 minutes.
Whoa. Okay.
Okay, yeah, that was fighting words.
Well, that's the rivalry, eh?
Yeah, for real. And honestly, like I think last night's match did feel the most like a rivalry match that it's felt in a while.
And I don't know why, but I always have the feeling that when games are played at BMO Field, there's something a bit. Maybe it's because we're at
Like
the stadium when
edgier?
they play, but
Yeah.
on TV it seems so much edgier. It
Yeah.
seems like a hostile environment. So and we've lost so many times. Since you've been following Montreal, even
Yeah.
before, we've lost how many times at BMO
Well,
Field?
since I started following was the first time they won, which is bad because you know how long they've been playing there.
Yeah, so there's always something special watching games at BMO Field
Yeah.
on TV, and it made it just even better to beat them. So yeah, Johnny, he went hard on them, but I guess rivalry allows it. I guess.
Yeah, and hopefully they'll allow Montreal fans back next time around.
Who knows?
And I'm sorry, I couldn't resist saying something about
Who
it.
knows?
That was really shady, and I don't like it.
Yeah.
And really hoping that Montreal addresses that.
Well, I'll just say one thing on this. I think it's unsafe too, even if it's unethical.
Well, that's the thing, because then you end up with a bunch of Montreal fans sitting in the general stands.
Exactly. And I've heard that there were some incidents yesterday. They've not been confirmed, but I heard that there was some physical altercations after the game between Toronto and Montreal fans. And if you just put that visitor section and you
wait to escort them out.
exactly, you I don't know why they did, because for sure people were going to go to Toronto anyways.
Yeah, no.
Just make it safer.
Yeah, no, that's the thing, and it's a hot mess when they come here as well, right? So I mean, if it literally can't be arranged, that there aren't that physical altercations simply can't be avoided, then maybe it's true. But then in that case, it has to be both sides. Neither can come to either stadium.
Yeah.
If it's humanly impossible to stop people from beating each other up. I don't know the true solution, but I do know that having one close their supporter section and not the other, I don't think is the right solution at all.
Me neither.
Yeah, really sorry. That just really grinded my gears, and I just had to say something.
Fair enough.
All right, moving on. I did include a couple of memes. I'm really sorry. We have Wilmer Corona, and he's quoting Andrew Wiebe. And that's kind of the tweet. Actually, this was just how I found it, which is why I included Wilmer Corona. So he's quoting an Andrew Wiebe tweet from the MLS, that guy. And so the tweet he's quoting is CF Montreal finishing out this game. And for our listeners who can't see, and unfortunately I can't play it because I just have a screenshot of the tweet. It's the gif of the funeral where they are dancing with the coffin and like celebrating.
Yeah.
And so that was, I guess, Andrew Wiebe's impression of how Montreal managed the second half of that game. And I thought that was a hoot and a half. Yeah.
Yeah, nice. No, I like it.
Yeah.
Very good.
Yes, so thank you, Risky Wilmer, for including the appropriate hashtag so that I would come across that tweet. Next up, actually, this is my final meme tweet of, I promise. It's my favorite. I saw this one and I died. So this is by Mountie at @forlife_Louis or Lewis possibly. So it is for our listeners who are not seeing this. It is the meme of Tobey Maguire in Spider-Man, like when he's wearing his glasses and not wearing his glasses. So when he's not wearing his glasses, he sees Pep Guardiola, he puts on his glasses, and he sees Wilfred Nancy. And I love that.
Yeah. I don't like Pep Guardiola, so it hurts me a bit, but I get what he means. I like it.
He's a good coach.
Yeah.
Even if you don't like him,
No,
he's a good coach.
not like everyone, but you know what? I didn't like Wilfred Nancy's tactics at first. Like I've never liked Pep's tactics, and you know what? It kind of grew on me. So it won't make me like Pep, but it definitely made me like Wilfred for sure.
Oh, I forgot who I said it to. But I said it a few days ago. I said, "Oh my God, I'm gonna have a dinner party at the end of the season, and all I'm gonna serve is crow." And we're gonna eat some for not liking Wilfred Nancy's tactics. We're gonna like some for not liking Lassie as a wingback. We're gonna, I forget what else. I forget the other million things that we criticized that wound up not panning out, but nonetheless.
But fair play to him,
Yeah.
It worked, so.
Yeah,
that's why we're podcasting and he's coaching the first team, right?
Fact. Next up, we have Andy _gags. So, CF Montreal made a really cool announcement this week that they have brought in Amy Walsh, friend of the pod, to help with the development of, I guess we'll call it women's soccer. It could be at the girls' level, I guess, the academy. So to help with the development of that within the team, within the province, and so on. So Andy has tweeted in reaction to that announcement, over under on the amount of future Canadian women's national team players that Amy helps develop is set at 10.5. And Andy says, I'll take the over.
Well, of course, easily over. Easily over.
Honestly, I'm super pumped by that announcement, by the way.
Yeah, me too.
I'm really happy. I think Amy's an awesome voice for the development of the women's game, for one. I think it's an awesome move by the club, to get on board that train, because, the popularity of women's soccer is increasing exponentially. And definitely, I think there is a gap. The PLSQ women's teams, I think, are still winning national trophies left, right, and center. But at the same time, if another nationwide lead is going to be developed for Canada, it's definitely going to be really important to be on board that train.
Yeah, I think it's interesting that they chose Amy specifically because yes, she has all the accolades of her soccer career. She's a Hall of Famer. She's played so many times for the national team. She's had a fantastic career, but more than that, she's so relatable and such a cool person. And we were lucky enough to meet her on the pod. And I mean, I think she's a perfect ambassador for that role. And she's talked about it when she came here. I think we had to cut her hormone at some point because we didn't bring her on for that. But she was going on things that she would change about the women's game and things that were needed for the women game to evolve. So I mean, she must be so pumped and so excited by that opportunity. And Montreal, on their behalf, they're absolutely thrilled that they have someone so competent.
Oh my God. Like, it's a match made in heaven for me, you know, and it feels like all the people are finally getting into the right seats, whether it's Gabrielle Gervais, Olivia Renard, and I think Amy Walsh is such an excellent candidate, especially, as a Montrealer herself. I think she really will have her finger on the pulse of the national level, the provincial level, the local level. Yeah,
she's been through it all anyway, so she can relate to everything down there. So it's amazing. I'm so happy. We asked her to come today on the pod and she couldn't.
Now we know why.
Well, I think we know why now. We didn't know at that moment, but congrats, Amy Walsh. It's
for real. 100%, so excited, so happy, so thrilled. We'll definitely be keeping our eyes up, and as well, obviously, yesterday Montreal did actually host, just in passing because it goes with it, and Amy was there. They hosted the U13, U14 women's All-Star game. And that was the first, and so I think that's a really important step in the right direction, which is really exciting.
Yeah, congrats. That's awesome for you.
So really excited to see where this project goes.
Yep.
And my final tweet of the night is this is a person who I often share a lot of Canadian women's national team opinions with. So it's Kate. I'm going to try and pronounce it, and I'm really sorry. Tigchlar.
I think you got it.
Oh, I'm really sorry if I didn't. Please let me know if I didn't. So this is Kate's reaction to the September 1st game. I'm so sorry. My days of the week are gone because I was on vacation. To the most recent match. She said, today's game makes me very excited to see what happens when we have a healthy roster. And I completely agree with Kate because it was the most attacking display that we'd seen from Canada in quite some time. And, even including previous friendlies. So completely agree with Kate. Nice. Completely agree. It thrilled me. And as well, in Kate's tweet for our listeners, she had included a GIF of a character from a TV show doing the the evil plotting fingers, but meaning it in a good way.
But you remember when Jorge Sanchez came on the pod and he talked about the women national team and said if there was one thing that was really worrying him going forward was the lack of goals that they were able to score. So
and I mean the finishing, like I said, still was not there the other night, but the chances were created. Yes,
there you go. That's the first step towards scoring.
Right. Yeah, because I mean, I think as well that was coming like on the heels of that South Korea game where it was so stagnant, right, and sterile.
But I remember even the Nigeria games, it
Yeah,
wasn't easy. It was
no,
cagey. It was like a midfield battle more than
no,
anything. So now if you see Canada really attacking and dictating the middle, the attacking third,
yeah,
you're gonna score eventually. You can't just miss the net.
no, completely agree. So yeah. Anyway, that is my wrap up of social media for the week.
So I guess we're done with the show today.
Guess we are.
Yeah, it went so fast.
I know.
Thanks to everyone who came. Well, there was a lot of people in the comments, so we're really happy to see all of you guys, and thank you so much for joining the fun with us. It was awesome. Thanks, Eve. It was really cool spending the night with you.
Thank you as always for having me back. I'm very thrilled to be back, and I don't know, I have to start emotionally preparing for our 100th episode in 2 weeks.
It's coming really fast. We've come a long way, and thanks. So thanks everyone as usual, and take care. We're gonna see you back on Sunday. Yeah, we're set for Sunday, 6:30
As
for
far as I
another.
know.
Yeah. Unless it changes, we'll keep you posted on our social media platform. Sunday 6:30 for the next episode of The Ball Is On. Have a great week, everyone. Take care, and can't wait to see you again.